Well, let's see, let me get, well, okay, so if the camera guy's ready, we'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Alderman Kennedy,
He's
yes.
excused.
Alderman Conway, Alderman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Arnowitz,
Present.
Alderwoman Hubbard,
Present.
Alderwoman Howard,
Present.
Alderwoman Murphy, Alderman Ogilvy, Alderwoman Navarro,
Present.
Chairman Vaccaro.
Present.
7 present, you have a quorum.
First off, thank you all for coming out so early this morning. I'm having some copies printed of the ordinance we're repealing, which is the 74, 75.
704.
Yeah, so I only have 3 copies at the minute, but they're making them in the other room.
Pass one to
Let me
me,
keep this one
please.
just for a minute, just so I have it in front of me. So, it almost reads the same, and this one was introduced by Frank Williamson, and Megan Green, Kenny Ortman, Christina Gracias. They were all the co-sponsors of the bill we're repealing. And we'll have the other copies for everybody in a minute. And I guess the question is, oh, there we go, here's the rest of them. Cool. We're just gonna pass them out around here.
Excuse me.
Thank you. So this is copies of the original. That's the original. Carol, just a fast question is, what is the,
This is not.
what is the difference? The copies don't
Okay,
allow-
if,
Beth, can you send them this way?
let me just
got
give you
one?
I've got one, so, I'm good. Let me just give you the background. I was appointed director of the, Public Employees
Sure.
Group, and in that process, I made
I'm
an
sorry,
appointment.
the director?
Or not director,
Chairman.
chairman of the Public
Oh.
Employees Committee.
Okay.
It's only 8:45. Okay, chairman of the Public Employees
Could be
Committee.
director, we'll be all right.
And in that capacity, I made an appointment to speak to the Director of Personnel, Mr. Franks. And in meeting with him, he was concerned that this bill had been enacted, had never been brought before the Civil Service Commission. And in the old bill, if you look at page 2, line 2 and 3, there were mentioned St. Louis Ethics Compliance Officer. That's a person that does not exist. That's a position that does not exist. And then the Civilian Oversight Board, no, Civil Rights Enforcement Agency.
So,
They do not do enforcement. They don't enforce employment practices. So that was part of the problem, and then, like I said, it hadn't went before the Civil Service Commission to be ratified by them. So he asked me to make some changes. Those were primarily the changes that were made, and here we are.
so,
And so these people, again, I would like to list them as co-sponsors on this, the
well,
ones that.
they wouldn't know, I mean, like Kenny Ortman's not
No,
here.
Kenny Arkin's
No.
not here,
But-
but Frank
we
did
can-
say he was, I did
So-
speak with them about it.
So what made me even look up the original one
Uh-huh,
was because someone is claiming that this does away with CREA. That
it doesn't
somehow-
do away with CREA,
I know, but I
but
just want to
CREA
make it
doesn't
clear.
serve in a function to oversee employees.
Well, and that's why I wanted to bring it out, because
Okay.
again, it's on Twitter and everything that we are now doing away with CREA, that this bill actually takes away the enforcement of civil rights. That's why I even bothered to look it up, because it seems like a simple bill. I just
It's not a
wanted-
function, this is not a function under CREA.
Of CREA.
It's, yeah,
Right, and does, in no way takes away their authority.
right.
Okay,
No.
so I will open it up for questions. Alderman Boyd, you are the first.
Sure, what is the problem with CREA, being an agency that, could hear complaints? Because isn't that one of their roles anyway, as far as housing discrimination?
It's
They do
housing,
investigations
not
on housing.
employment.
Okay, so
This is
employment.
personnel.
So the Civilian Oversight Board is over personnel?
No, they're over police.
Okay, so they deal with the police.
Mhm.
The comptroller's office has personnel.
Well, the comptroller has purview over financial wrongdoing,
Gotcha.
okay? And then, discrimination would be taken care of by the Office of Personnel. Part of the reason was personnel felt that though it was important that they know these things because this is a term of employment, and if it goes to CREA and he doesn't know about it, then, we don't have any grounds for taking action against an employee.
Okay, and you say this has been recommended by the Civil Service Commission?
Right, they've approved it.
Where does it state that in the?
It doesn't, but I have a letter.
Because normally, the reason I ask that, normally bills would say recommended and approved by the Civil Service Commission, somewhere within the whereases.
I can do that because I did get a letter from the Civil Service Commission saying that they had recommended and approved it, but I've got it in on my desk.
I mean, if you say you have a letter, I don't challenge back to have a letter.
Okay,
It's just
but we
that
can add that,
It's
I
kind
mean,
of odd that if they did it,
Korea's.
it would normally
But
be
if you read
inside
that-
the bill.
Second page.
okay, well,
And it's
I
normally
think
say
I
on,
should-
like the letter that you have, it would
One,
say,
two,
whereas
two, three.
on this day, this has been
On the
recommended and
old-
approved by the Civil Service Commission, and then if anybody
I'll take
questions
that
it,
as a
they can go
recommendation
to
and
the-
I'll have that added to it. Sure. Okay, is that
So we
Is it
could, yeah, and that's not, we can do it,
as a committee sub?
well, you can't do a committee sub, you can do an amendment if you want, and we could have our attorney draw something really quick, or you could do it as a
Let me get the
floor sub.
letter. You want me to get it now or wait until the meeting's over?
Well,
No,
we
you
could, and you
probably
could,
get it
and you could
now.
do it as a floor, do it now, okay. We got, so Scott, the question, because I saw stuff on Twitter saying this eliminates the CREA's authority. And, so it was on Twitter, which made me look up the original ordinance, you know.
What are we fixing now?
Well, it just, well, in line on the ordinance, the old ordinance, it's taking out or changing the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency of St. Louis Ethics Complaint Office. It's basically, I
You know what,
believe-
get Lou, because there may be some other changes, we can do them all at one time.
Okay, hey, Lou, I think she had a,
Taken away from CREA because CREA only does housing.
that's not
But they do
necessarily
do
true.
employment, but I
Yeah.
think they do
Yeah.
employment, but.
That's
Is
not
the issue,
necessarily
do they do employment,
not internal
city employment? That's- is
Right.
where's
true. I would think that any,
city.
right, I understand that, I would think that CREA would do, and I don't, honestly, I'm on CREA, but I would believe that if you came here to become a member of the Board of Aldermen, and we said, well, we got too many of this minority or too many of that minority, and we said, well, we're not gonna, and you saw that happen, you're seeing reverse discrimination suits happen within the police department and now within the sheriff's department, where there's a lot of reverse discrimination suits going on, so I don't know, I honestly don't know, it didn't even come to my attention.
The
till last
contention
week.
was that if it didn't go before personnel, and personnel, I guess, could refer to CREA,
I guess,
but
I'm gonna go down the list just to keep things moving along. And then we'll come back for like just a roundtable discussion on it. Jeffrey, is that all that you have?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Alderman Hardawitz,
No questions right now.
Alderwoman Hubbard, Carol, you're here, Alderwoman Murphy,
No, nothing.
Alderman Ogilvy,
I do not think I know enough to ask a good question.
okay, and Alderwoman Navarro.
Yeah, I do have a few questions. So one would be, if someone goes to one of these auditing officials with a complaint of retaliation, and if you can walk me through the process, so let's say they don't like the decision that they get, can they then go to circuit court with an appeal, and what standard is applied to their case at that point? Is it the standard in this bill, or is it the standard in state law?
where's Lou?
He's right here. That's why we.
That's an attorney question as far as I'm
We
concerned.
can jump up.
Personnel would, personnel should have a process for
Take the
personnel.
hot seat next to Carol, please.
And the reason I'm asking is, just to make sure that we're not setting up some conflict, where is this the standard that somebody has to prove that they've been retaliated against, or is it the state standard? Because the standard in here is because of, whereas other standards that are often used, you have to show it's a contributing factor. And so what is the standard that would ultimately be applied to an individual's case? The claim?
Well, personnel should have at least some process to go after for the appeal process. And then after that, the person definitely could take it forward to the next administrative process that they have available to them. There are state standards, but their application here, as far as bringing a claim for retaliation, that would be governed by policy, but also the state standards. So the previous does not have a definition of the same definition that you're looking for, a statement of the same standard.
Oh, the definition's different?
No, I said
between these?
that
Oh.
there isn't one.
The previous bill
Right.
did not have that.
Well, let's see, so I'm looking at the definition of retaliate, which is D.
In the current.
Oh,
It's in this.
it's in the other one too.
Right.
Means any adverse change in employee's employment status or the terms and conditions
the
of
same.
employment that results from, right?
It's the same as the previous bill.
All right.
And I guess what I'm used to seeing is, you know, it's like a contributing factor to the adverse employment action. I don't know, I didn't wanna be setting up
You see
inconsistencies.
you're used to seeing greater policy language developed.
Would you wanna do that as an amendment and add that, and you're just supposed to have to say where,
Right,
so at the end of whatever, what page are we on?
Page 3,
Of your, of
line
the new
4,
bill?
section D.
So it means any adverse change in employee's employment status or the terms and conditions of employment. I'm trying to think how you would, how to get the contributing, I mean, essentially what you wanna say is the retaliation was a contributing factor to any adverse change. So it means any adverse change that is a contributing factor. So, I mean, let me see if I can pull up some similar language.
Would you guys wanna take like a 10-minute break so you can make your amendments and
Yeah,
then
let
come
me-
back, or? Cause we're still waiting for something that you're gonna do, Carol.
I already got it.
Wow, let's see. That's,
You can find
that's
it
why
real
we do
quick.
this so early in the morning, we're all awake.
Right.
Well, I guess the other thing too, while I look at it, under 3, D and E, so this is page 5.
Of the current bill?
Yeah,
Oh, the current bill, we're on the
bill.
current bill,
Yeah.
yeah, page 5, the current bill.
Employees who carry out the following in good faith, and again, this is just coming from an employment discrimination background, I don't know what exactly that means. I think better language would be the employee reasonably believes.
Or
That's
has a reasonable good faith belief.
reasonable good faith, yeah, I mean, just the language that's.
Employees who carry out the following in good faith are entitled to protections and remedies articulated in sections 4 and 5.
So I don't know that good faith is used as a legal term of art as much as,
A
it's
contractual
been,
term.
right, I mean, reasonable belief is something that's been litigated and the courts know like what that means, there's standards for whether an employee has a reasonable belief. I don't know that
That's
there's
true.
case law defining what good faith means. I mean, I don't know.
Well, there is good faith reporting with respect to, like in VAWA and Clery Act. When you have a report on that, they say good faith belief or reasonable good faith belief, meaning that the person is proceeding on their belief that, and they have reason to believe
20
that.
minutes
Okay.
to.
Well,
It
maybe just
almost
putting the
sounds
word
as though
reasonable
that
in there.
we're splitting hairs.
Right.
Well, I know it sounds like it, but it's unbelievable how much time people will pay lawyers to figure this
So-
out later.
so-
So, I mean, if we could add the word
so-
reasonable,
So, yeah, you would have to actually, then we would need a copy for everybody saying change, you know, change line, whatever to say that, we'd have to do it pretty quick just because of time.
We only need a copy if people request a copy.
Huh?
We only need a copy of
Okay.
if any one member requests a copy.
Okay, so we don't,
Well, we're gonna have to, I
So-
know.
Paper copy for the record.
Right. So that's
little
why I'm
change-
kind of, want
Does it-
to
does
kind,
it-
can I speak?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Who could make-
You know, making these changes means it goes back to civil service. They've went through this and approved it as amend, you know, as it is. You know, adding this, I don't think is a problem, that they've approved it.
Mhm.
But, you know, I'm gonna have to send it back to them, and I don't know that it's that productive, but
Well, Alderwoman, do you know if they considered contribute, so going back to the retaliation definition, if it was considered to use the language contributing factor, and if that was rejected for some reason?
I honestly can't say, cause I was not there when they went through this.
This would probably be something that they had this review with their council down there.
Right.
So they should ask them, because these are policy questions and they need to nail down these definitions. I don't think that we should be providing it here for that.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, what were you saying there?
So
what I'm
what's your
sa-
recommendation?
My recommendation, and I was just telling the Alderwoman, is that this is setting policy here, and I think that it's important for personnel to determine what definitions that they want to apply. This was reviewed by personnel, and I would have
Their
to assume
attorneys,
that their legal counsel went through it as well. So these standards that they're setting as far as reasonable belief, good faith belief, that it's up to them really to clear that up, because they're the ones that are gonna have to abide by that and then interpret it in the future.
Well, so, what I would say is, so just to give two options, so if you guys wanna vote this out today with the letter, that's fine, or if you want to hold one more meeting and ask personnel to come up here so that this way, I'm not trying, Carol, we can do it fast.
I'm in no hurry. You know, I'd rather get it right than have to
You
read.
know, would
Yeah.
the favor, you know, kind of the flavor of the committee be, we ask personnel to come up here? Because I think that Alderwoman Navarro brings up some good points. And so, to think about it just for a minute, and then, was that your only question in it? Because I was gonna move on otherwise.
Well, this, the third final question I
Sure.
had, was regarding remedies. Let's see, which is on
Page
page 6,
Line-
section 5.
Page 5,
Page
No,
6.
page 6,
Page
section
6.
5, remedies.
Line-
Line 5.
line 5?
Section 5, line 1
Line one.
is
Line
remedies.
1.
Okay.
And just in terms of the remedies that are available. And again, this is probably a question for them, why, because I'm used to seeing some of this language in other venues, and it would normally include compensatory damages or reasonable attorney's fees. And if, you know, there's a reason why that was not
It
included.
says other
in this
forms
section.
of restitution.
So,
It
And
says,
they-
nothing in this ordinance shall prohibit an employee from pursuing his or own private actions, seek damages or other remedies beyond those awarded by the city.
Yeah, so that, okay.
So does
So
that cover
would
that?
cover it?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it says
Okay.
other forms of restitution.
Also other forms of restitution.
Yeah, it says it right
Okay.
there.
Catches it.
It's not specific. Yeah.
Right, they can go to a private attorney or take it before other higher up.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern would be the definition of retaliate and results from, just versus a contributing factor, and I'm just not as familiar with the results from language. And I do know contributing factor has been used, and that's what the state had been using for a long time.
State has changed stuff, didn't
Yeah,
think-
the states
Didn't the
is
state just
much more
change
liberal, they
everything?
don't, yeah,
it? So you don't have any retaliation?
right.
They just passed them?
so,
You don't
was
have
that, was
those?
that all the questions for the minute?
Yes,
Okay, so I'm gonna move on down the line here, and I believe
thank you.
it's gonna go to, I think I hit everybody except for Vice Chairman and, Scott, what do you got?
I mean, the substantial change between the existing ordinance and this bill is Civil Rights Enforcement Agency gets changed to Department of Personnel.
And the ethics compliance officer
Right.
was, which is a position that does not exist.
Right,
So
lines
we're
1
sending
and
them
2.
looking for something that doesn't exist,
Exists in an ordinance, but it doesn't exist in
and
real life.
physically, yes,
Yeah.
in practice.
Um, wanna say Missouri Ethics Commission or the Ethics Compliance Officer, since hopefully we will have one at some point in the future?
I think that that's another policy.
I think that's another policy that personnel should rule on, because we don't have that, and if we're putting this in place and it's gonna be part of employment practices, it seems to me we shouldn't have in a position that isn't filled for people to go to. I mean, you know, if you're stressed out and you're having employment problems and you're going and looking for somebody that doesn't exist, that only adds to your
Okay.
confusion and stress.
Okay.
So that was, you know, what was brought before me, that we had put something in place with a person that we had not put in place. And, I mean, we can always amend this later when we get that person in place, but if we don't have that person, it just doesn't seem, you know, the best way to do it at this point. Yes,
So there's the existing ordinance in place. I'm just more of a general question to everybody. Would you guys want to bring the Department of Personnel in, or do you want to just pass this through or
I
vote on
would
it?
personally like to have a conversation with Director of Personnel.
okay,
That's me.
Well,
we can do
we
that.
kind of hold the.
let's
Committee.
just take a vote.
Yeah, well, I don't want to take a vote. I'll hold it if, you know, because it wouldn't be a vote. It would be, I can hold it in committee and say, we'll just have another meeting. If we vote, we're either going to vote it up or down. But there's an ordinance in place. Is it kind of, everybody would like to just see?
Have they seen this before? I guess because.
They
Yeah.
would have, Carol worked with them on it.
Right.
They've
So
approved
I'm
this.
concerned,
This
like-
is went before the Civil
Right, I'm
Service
concerned
Commission.
if they've seen these changes and, like you said, they have legal counsel who
Right.
have looked over it as well. I guess maybe I don't understand why we're making changes.
Well, that's what my contention is, but I wouldn't wanna be anyone
I believe
to, you
Heather, you're
know,
an
squelch
attorney, aren't you?
information if people want it, so.
So Heather's an attorney, and so has a different, and so I respect her, you know, she kind of works in this kind of area. And then on Twitter.
Was this the language we had in the past?
No, the language in the past really had
Primarily the
Korea, and
same.
this takes Korea out.
I know, but.
And that's
it
what caught
questioning
my
about
attention
something
was
else.
when I was seeing on Twitter that we're diminishing the role of Korea, and that's what, you know, made me wanna see what's in the ordinance, because it's taking Korea out, so.
Can I ask a question about
Yes.
Korea? So where, I've got the ordinance 67119, which I think outlines Korea's duties. Where does it say in here that it doesn't apply to city employment?
Where does
Do
it
we-
say
do
and
we-
where?
So, because we're saying that Korea is not the right place to go, and what's that based on? Because it does, I mean,
Now-
the general description is that it applies to employment, so there must
The-
be some exception for city employees.
I think I'm fine with it.
The reason Korea, they could go to Korea eventually, but the Division of Personnel needs to know about this, so that if they would go to Korea, the communication
Okay.
to the Division of Personnel might not be there.
Okay,
They want,
After that.
because personnel is ultimately responsible for these things. You know, if someone's being discriminated against. If they go to Korea, the problem would be that maybe it wouldn't be communicated to personnel. And, you know, then it would get to personnel after, you know, a while, but they wouldn't be in on the bottom line. And it's important that people, you know, legally,
mhm.
personnel's involved from the start on discrimination and those types of suits, or, you know, actions. Yes.
Yeah, go for it. I'm sorry.
There are more than just those couple of changes in here. I'm trying to compare apples and apples. I'm on page 6, and it says section 8.
Which, page 6
Which
of
one are
page
you
Of
on?
the new, the one before us, the bill that's before us.
Okay, okay.
Section 8 says savings clause, which I don't understand. Then, wait a minute, there's 2 sections. So section 8, just go section 9, severability clause, 10, emergency clause, then back to section 8, savings clause.
No,
And
that's a serious typo.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I know, but he doesn't understand what it is.
Yeah.
I never. And savings clause was not in the original, and I don't understand what savings clause means.
Can Lou speak to that?
Right, what the savings clause says here is that you still have the right, okay, shall be construed to affect any report of improper governmental action. So what it's saying here is that if you read this, nothing in here should be construed that you still do not have that process to make that report, to report improper governmental action.
Okay, okay. So that's added, that was not in the original ordinance though.
Right, I see that.
So,
In there?
Yeah, okay. No, it wasn't in the original ordinance, and it was put in here to probably make clear, personnel wanted to make clear that this should not be construed as the only remedy and process available to personnel.
okay. And I was just bringing it up to, because I kept hearing, we're only taking out these two. And there's a clause added that wasn't originally there. But also, I think this is a great opportunity to get a better understanding of what this means. I would appreciate hearing from personnel on how does this work? What's the mechanics?
Okay.
Like Alderwoman Navarro, walk me through the steps if somebody had a complaint.
Okay.
How does the process work? What's,
That's fine. I'm good with that, and I think that, knowing that we put one in place that was flawed, it would be better if we do it right this time and make sure what we're doing is in line with what personnel expects.
And personnel should have an underlying process for carrying out these provisions. So their process is gonna be based on that.
Okay.
they
So
can
we'll
come
bring
explain it.
Mr. Franks in here too.
Okay, so then
We'll set a new meeting.
we're gonna hold this, and Carol, we can set it, next week, we're all off Friday, the board meeting's on Thursday. So, if you wanna set this up Monday, Tuesday,
Maybe Wednesday.
or Wednesday, Donna, we can do it Wednesday and still get it,
I have to see the calendar.
okay, and so, I guess the thing about doing it Wednesday, if we make changes, you may not meet that 24-hour rule for Thursday, you might wanna back up to
It's-
Tuesday, it's your call.
Let me look at the calendar and then we'll set it and then we'll go from there.
Yes.
Because I have to coordinate with Mr. Franks and see what his calendar looks like also. So, like I said, haste makes waste.
Well, no,
So let's do it right and get
I
it.
appreciate that.
That's fine.
Alderwoman Vaughn, ahead and
Yeah,
follow
Chairman,
the
I just
question.
have one other thing I think just for this committee to consider is, and it seems like part of what this is doing, if we look at it from the position of a victim of discrimination or retaliation, we're kind of adding another layer that they have to go through before they can get to CREA, is what it sounds like. And I think it's just important for us to think about, again, what that process is from the person who's reporting as well, and
And I don't disagree. That's why, and I think rather than, because I really, and it's my fault, because I didn't look at this like I should have, and I really didn't look at the other ordinance, and to set it up before a board meeting when it's a big rush is, because I really felt it was just gonna be a, quick in and out. So when we set it up next week, we'll plan on that meeting probably taking an hour, hour and a half or something, just.
Well, let me see what
just because-
Mr. Frank's schedule looks like.
And it could be the week after, just keep in mind that we're closed Friday, Thursday's gonna be the board meeting.
I know.
Yes, Alderman.
And the other question, Alderwoman, is it necessary to have an emergency clause? Is something going on where this has to happen right away?
Oh, they don't have any place to report to right now.
They don't have any place to report to.
Right
this-
now?
isn't the current ordinance in? I mean,
No,
No,
because
the
this ordinance never did take effect because it was never approved by the Civil Service Commission, so it's just hanging out there.
Okay.
It's
That's
a,
the whole point.
it's a law that's out there that doesn't,
Enforced.
yeah, because it was never brought before
Okay,
Civil Service.
That makes sense.
And I appreciate you bringing that out like this, because it's important that, and that this stuff come out and be done right. And I
Well, and the
appreciate
devil's in
all
the
that.
details, and, if we have something that is unenforceable, it gives people a false sense of security. So, let me get Mr. Franks in here, and
Okay.
we'll go through it, and, he can take it back before his board and make sure that we've got something that's solid, rather than, just cranking out legislation for the sake of cranking out legislation.
I appreciate
Okay.
it. I really do. I
Thank you for,
appreciate
yeah,
that
really,
then.
thank you for bringing this, because it is really important.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So
Anybody?
moved.
Thank you very much.
Adjourn. Thank you, Carol, thank you so much.
We're here next meeting.